and we want everybody to jump up and dance, and nobody does because they're just waking up from a dinner coma.
Right.
So how many DJs in the crowd ask their brides how old they are? And then I ask how many DJs ask their brides how old their parents are.
You get me. You get what I'm interested in. You from afar over there somehow knew magically kind of what I would be into. What do you know? It's another Thursday here on Mobile Music Thursday with myself, Jason Jones. Thanks for tuning in this week. I'm really excited about our guest this week. I had the privilege of being able to see him speak at the Las Vegas DJ show put on by the ADJA just a week ago, actually, and did a really fantastic presentation on, the title of it was Breaking Bad DJ Habits. But one of the things that really fascinated, that's really relevant to our show, is the degree in which he really thoughtfully looked at dinner music and cocktail music, and seeing it as a real wasted opportunity to be able to do something really relevant, special, to make the event exceptional. Because as we all quickly discover, the more that we do this, the success of our events is usually a combination of many details that we thoughtfully work out in advance to prepare for. Then when they're experienced, people don't necessarily name off all the details, but they know the sum of those details was this amazing experience. And he's done that with cocktail music and dinner music. And so we're going to do a little emphasis on talking about that and the way that he looks at it. And I think you're going to be able to tell. I took a lot away from the presentation, so I'm really excited that he's going to be here on the show again tonight to talk about those very things. He owns the company Hey Mr. DJ Entertainment, and he's located in Cincinnati, Ohio, in the 16th year in business. He has several production crews that go out and do events. That's right, not just DJs, but actually production crews that go out to put on the production and put on the experience and produce the entire thing for his bride and groom clients. He also has produced an educational DVD that you can check out if you're interested. You can contact him directly through the email that's on the post here below. And that's called Making It Happen, which is basically how to make referrals happen. So a real wealth of knowledge and experience, and I'm really excited that I get to have you on the show. Brandon, Lindsey, welcome to the show, Mobile Music Thursday.
Thanks, Jason. I appreciate you having me.
You bet. Well, this is really great that we get to have a conversation, and I'm going to actually be able to understand even better what you so succinctly shared about the way that you handle dinner music and cocktail music, which isn't just hey, do you want jazz or do you want, Yanni? Or classical,
yeah,
as I've heard it and seen it in the past and still see it show up nowadays.
Yeah, this was something that at first it was a little hard for me to accept. My friend, my business partner, Jason Lefker, actually, he started to play some really outside of the box stuff during dinner, and he was having a lot of success with it. And I would tag along with him occasionally when we didn't have too much going on. And we actually got in a couple arguments about it. It was kind of funny.
Really? So tell me about, what was the outside of the box? What were you hearing, raising your eyebrow, going what are you doing?
Well, the first argument we got into actually was, it was right around the time Viva La Vida was popular. And I was playing Viva La Vida during dinner because we wanted to keep it upbeat and fun. And he was like, it's not fast enough. It's not, it's not where I want to be. And, he was playing things like Rick James, Give It To Me, Baby. And
wow.
He was way out there with some of the stuff. But he had a lot of success. And so we worked on it together. We talked more about it. And one of the big things we focused on was the fact that it was fine to do that, but we needed to make sure that it was that the volume level was right.
Yep.
Anytime you do this, you just have to make sure that you understand and your clients understand that it's really a volume issue and not what you're playing issue.
Okay.
We all know if you play a lot of Sinatra and stuff like that, the horns in those songs get really loud sometimes. So it's those songs can be too loud too if you're not careful. So yeah, we had a lot of fun with it, and then we actually started this presentation together. And then he kind of fell off of the presentation, but I took the rest of it and ran with it, and you got to see it in Las Vegas. So.
All right, fantastic. And so the idea is, to be more specific, the idea is to be to be more open to your selection of music, not just jazz, light jazz, chamber music, but actually What is that? What is it that you're exploring and that you've started to put together?
Well, the first thing I asked in the presentation was how many DJs in the crowd ask their brides how old they are. And then I asked how many DJs ask their brides how old their parents are.
Mm-hmm.
And, the hands went down on the parents. Quite a few people didn't ask that, but I think it's important. And there's a slide that I have here, and it'll show at the top, it has basically our brides and grooms and how old they are.
Mm-hmm.
Typical bride and groom being 22 to 28 years old. They were in high school from 2002 to 2008. And they have their core listening years, which was 1998 to current.
Okay.
And so
those, what are those? How do you determine what those core listening years are?
I just focus on the time. I know for me and for the people I know, the time you're in high school, those are some of the songs you remember for the rest of your life. They have a big impact on you, and they bring back memories. Some of the years just before high school, you're old enough to remember the songs, to get into the songs and sing them. You might hear your parents playing the radio around the house. And then into college years, so a little bit, girls nowadays, they would listen to Kiss 107 even today on the radio. So really, that's why we say all the way till current. So if that's really the core listening years we were looking for. And then I did that with the parents and the grandparents as well. So we have the parents and friends. They're usually 47 to the 53 age range based on just sort of the math that I did in high school from 1977 to 1983, and then their listening years being 1973 to 1988. And then the interesting part was the grandparents really, their core listening years being, maybe 1950 all the way up to like 1962.
Okay.
When you look at a lot of the stuff that we play at weddings, just by default, we do a lot of Rat Pack stuff. We do a lot of occasionally.
It's like an easy go-to. Even brides and grooms will say, well, play like Frank Sinatra. They kind of they repeat back what they've heard or seen done,
Exactly. Yeah. And, I look at that. And sometimes I'll ask the brides and grooms, well, what songs do you specifically like by them? Or what light jazz artist songs do you know? Things like that.
Sure. When they say, oh, just do this.
Yeah. And couples I've asked them before as I interview them for their final meeting, and they'll come back and say, well, we don't know any light jazz artists, or they know like maybe 2 Sinatra songs, but they just really wanted to be people to be able to talk during dinner. So that goes back to the volume thing. But
right.
When you look at I know I've talked to guys who've played. They boast about playing Vitamin String Quartet during dinner. I mean, the problem I have with all this is that you have 2 hours there at the beginning of a reception where you walk in. It's supposed to feel like a party. It's the biggest, most expensive party these brides are ever going to throw.
Right.
And you walk in and it doesn't feel like a party. And all the way through for 2 hours, that's all you're playing, just the sleepy stuff sometimes. And even if it's not sleepy, some of the more upbeat Sinatra stuff you can snap to, whatever. But it's really not something that is drawing on the emotion of the people in the room because they don't relate to those songs anymore. So, what happens is after 2 hours, we throw on Love Shack and we want everybody to jump up and dance, and nobody does because they're just waking up from a dinner coma.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Because you haven't put a thought into. So it's in other words, kind of the biggest contrast that I hear is that you're either putting music in to fill time before you start to DJ. So it's like, oh, well, we just got this list that'll fill that time until we go to work. Or you can go well, work starts the moment people get there. If I'm producing an atmosphere, if I'm playing music, I'm hearing you say, I want this music to be relevant to the people that are there and reflective of my couple's taste. So if they had a party at their house and they hooked up their Pandora, what would their little radio station be?
Exactly. Yeah. We believe in our company, we talk about it a lot. Every song counts. And so when you walk in, you're setting a mood and you're building energy throughout dinner. Cocktail hour might be a little more high energy. When the dinner is first served, we might, take it down a couple notches. But by the end of dinner, we want to be up there where if people want to get up and dance, they could get up and dance, and that's okay. We're not the East Coast style where people dance between courses here where I am in Ohio, but
sure.
It's not uncommon for people to be up and dancing at the end of dinner, and then we have to kind of chill things out to go into the toast. But that means it's a party.
That's right. It's a celebration. People are having fun. They're loose. They're already getting energized. I mean, you're already getting them ready to get out and move on the floor. well before you're like, all right, hook song, let's go, everybody, wanting them to like you said, come out of their food coma, jump up and like run out and like suddenly get into what the experience I imagine would be like is like calisthenics. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, we're suddenly doing a workout to move that fast from 0 to 60. Whereas it's like you're kind of putting the gas pedal on like faster, and not specifically like the tempo rising that way, but the kind of the experience is that the energy is up, something for them to ride on, so they don't have to very far to go. They're already going like 45 by the time you say let's go to 60. They're like, we can do this.
Yeah, if we can get the toes tapping, we're in good shape. If we can get them feeling good during dinner, we're in good shape. If you see people, talking across the table and they're not straining to talk, then we're in good shape. But we just want people to be experiencing the reception. The dinner music certainly isn't the focus. It is a focus of background energy. But during that time, people want to speak to each other. It's a big family reunion. It's a big class reunion. But it needs to, in my opinion, definitely reflect the bride and groom's tastes. Occasionally you'll have a bride or a groom who maybe they're into indie rock and you can't play that during dancing, but you mix some of that stuff in during dinner. At the very least, I think we need to get away from the Sinatra, the Rat Pack, the go-to stuff, even the Michael Bublé stuff sometimes. I went to a wedding as a guest a couple years ago, and the guy played the entire Michael Bublé CD for dinner. That's the only thing we heard during dinner. He just put it on repeat. So, it doesn't really accomplish anything.
Well, right. It's like it doesn't matter. Then it becomes a throwaway. It's like, why are you there then? If you're just filling in, I mean, what is it that you're doing that your client's iPod couldn't fulfill?
Exactly. Yeah.
So tell me, I want to look at the list that you created from that example that you gave, so we can kind of see like how you translated that into song selections. And I want to do that. But before we jump to that, what I really want you to tell me is, so you have a recollection of the basically doing the dinner music without this kind of thoughtfulness and putting things together, kind of like beforehand when you would, right? So you were, before that, you were kind of just doing what seemed to do right. And we have a similar kind of some boilerplate stuff that you would do. And then compared to those two, what was the effect on people's readiness and willingness to dance and participate and be energized and be involved in the dance celebration part of the night once that got going? Between those two, like which one, what result did each one produce?
Well, I know originally when we would just sort of do the Rat Pack feel, or the default dinner music, so to speak, we might have grandma come up and say, "Oh, you're playing such beautiful music," But when we're, to me, that's a great compliment from grandma. But there might only be 4, 5, 6 people in the room that are her age.
Right.
I want to see is the entire room feeling good, and not only people come, sometimes people come up and dance. To me, that's a better compliment. And really, if you're looking for the why are we playing dinner music, why are we doing anything, let's get people to have fun. And so, what we're able to accomplish with some more upbeat selections and some things that reflect more on the bride and groom's personalities is just a better party overall. I definitely see a bit better result, more dancing early in the night, less awkwardness when you first start the dancing, and just a good feeling in the room.
So it sounds like it really supports your end goal of, once you do have the dancing going, that your end goal of getting that group engaged, you've got them engaged early, and so getting them going so that they're like, they have more longevity at the celebration. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think, at a wedding reception, if it's boring, if they're seeing the same things they've always seen, if it doesn't feel personal to a couple in the crowd, they may start to make that deal. Hey, once they cut the cake, we'll get out of here, And I think when you show them fun early on, they're more likely to stay. And the last thing you want is for people to be in the crowd talking about which bar is still open, where can we head to next.
Right.
Your clients have paid a lot of money to put on this party, and you want people to be there for as long as you're able to keep them there.
Right, like not going to a party somewhere else or creating something somewhere else, but if they leave, it's to go to bed because they're wiped out and they fully engaged.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome.
Exactly.
Well, let's go ahead and let's look at this slide then. Let's look at this this list or this example of music of the list that you put together, a sample list here.
Yeah. You can see the chart at the top, and you can see that most of the songs that I've put on here fall into that category. There are a few exceptions. But songs like "You Make My Dreams Come True" by Hall & Oates. That's a song that a lot of times you really see people bobbing in their seats to that song.
You cannot not bob your head to that song.
Yeah.
I've noticed that. It's like a psychological reaction that should be in a book somewhere. You hear that song come up, it's like, oh yeah.
And once dancing starts, it might be a little too late to play that song. You could get away with it, but it's one of those songs where if you see it in the playlist, you're constantly all night trying to figure out where you can drop that in if you get to dancing. And I think it's a great place to play it, during dinner. Songs like "Sweet Escape" by Gwen Stefani. Brides and Grooms were in high school when that came out, and it's got that initial, sort of sing along thing. As soon as you hear it, the woo in there. As soon as you hear that, you're into it. Some things for the parents even. You look at like "Kiss" by Prince, or "Bad Mama Jamma," Carl Carlton. These are songs that, just talking about them, they bring a smile to your face a little bit. "Dancing on the Ceiling," Lionel Richie, those types of songs. I think one of the ones that's an exception, sort of doesn't fall into the age ranges that we have here, is "Digging on James Brown," "Tower of Power." That song may not fall into that range, but I know parents who love James Brown, and they probably haven't heard that song before. So then they start to hear it, and they're like, "Oh, this is cool." So
right.
It's just there are a ton of songs, some Michael Jackson stuff that are on the list. Even today, one of the ones that I specifically put on here for a reason, like "Treasure," Bruno Mars.
Yeah,
I know a lot of people play that for dancing. To me, it's not a great dancing song. Especially when it first came out, it was cool. You could get away with it. But to me, it's one of those songs that it's just a little bit
too in between.
It loses a little energy. Yeah, it's in between. So if you can play that during dinner, you get to play it still, and people get to experience it still, but they're not forced to try to dance to it. So.
Well, I think that this does something else that's really powerful too, that builds a rapport with your audience. And that is like if I'm at an event and I'm hearing songs that I'm familiar with and that I like and things like that, my sense of you, the DJ, even if I haven't seen you or I haven't like visually made contact with you or whatever, is that you get me, you get what I'm interested in. You from afar over there somehow knew magically kind of what I would be into just by being thoughtful about like looking at like, well, what was popular during my core listening years. That I'm going to be like,
sure.
Oh, this song, or even if I don't have a very conscious recognition, there's a subconscious recognition of it.
Sure. Yeah, I agree with that. One of the places we see that a lot at weddings is if we play a couple of the boy band songs. The boy band songs are some that are kind of tough to play during dancing. And usually when they get requested, it's by the bridesmaids or, girls that age. And if you play it, and I definitely do play a couple of them during dancing, especially when requested, but when you play those, you're really trying to find the ones that are upbeat enough to dance to. There are a lot of them that are sort of in between. And you can play a couple of those during dancing, and you'll get a reaction. You'll get girls from the tables going like, "Oh, wow, how do you know this?"
Sure.
Sure, yeah. So they definitely feel the way you're talking.
I think. It's all a part of doing the job well. It's all about, I think, really, it's all a part of being what I would consider a good DJ. There's always lots of conversation. What's a good DJ and what's professional and what's exemplary as far as being a DJ. And if you're a DJ and you're performing and you're selecting and mixing songs for an audience, and the audience experiences you get what I'm into by what you're mixing, I think you're being a good DJ. You're being successful because you've tuned in and you're producing something for your audience.
Yeah, I don't think our job starts when dancing starts. I think our job starts from the moment they walk into the room, whether it's being a great MC or really just picking out the songs that connect with people.
or a culmination of all those details, you know?
Right.
Being a good MC, having a great transition, having music to fill in the energy between moments so there's nothing awkward, paying attention to all of those details. What impressed me the most about all of your entire presentation is the degree of which you've really thoughtfully looked and examined at every aspect of what you do and every place where you can make a difference at a wedding reception. You know, what are other ways that you can bring? And a lot of the things that you talked about are way more subtle than I'm going to do a big game or I'm going to do a lot of it wasn't like really big anything. A lot of it was like very subtle things. But once you combine all those subtle things into the experience, it would be like, wow. You know, that was the experience I had with Hey Mr. DJ Entertainment was different, you know what I mean, than others. I can't put my finger on it necessarily, or maybe that something stands out for me, but it really then becomes a standout.
Yeah, I agree. That was the whole purpose of the presentation, was to take things that DJs are already doing and just looking at it and sort of how can we go outside of the box with those things to improve our performance. Mm-hmm. And dinner music is a really common thing. I mean, we're all playing dinner and cocktail music. I think a lot of times without much thought.
Yeah, it's easy to get lazy with that.
Yeah, yeah. One of the things with the other slide that I have that you can show that I'll do in preparation for that is, you know, a bride, we all get our requests, whether it be, you know, maybe you get it through Gig Builder or, you know, DJ Event Planner or any of the things that you might use. Sometimes they'll email them to you or just write them down and hand them to you. But I like to take those requests and really break them up into, you know, where I would play them, you know, and it helps. And so, I don't think a lot of people do that. I think sometimes we'll put all the requests into a folder in Virtual DJ or something. But, you know, if you do 3 virtual folders with, you know, this person's dinner music, this person's dancing music, this person's slow songs, you know, that way when you get to a slow song, you're not scrambling to figure out what to play. You just pull up their list of particular slow songs that they like. But, you know, when you look at dinner music in this perspective, you know, more of an upbeat fashion, and you pull out the sort of the tweener songs. I made a list of, this was an actual example. This is an actual playlist that I got from a wedding, from a bride. Okay. And yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay.
Were you gonna? Okay, yeah. So anyway, dinner music, for example, in this particular playlist, we had Some Kind of Wonderful, Senorita, Justin Timberlake, Cooler Than Me, Mike Posner, Crazy, Shining Star, Earth, Wind and Fire. Just a lot of songs. You know, Love Never Felt So Good, Michael Jackson. The newer song. Again, that's another one that's a lot like Treasure.
Right.
Where do you play it? So we put those into the dinner category, played those there, and then we kept the really, you know, popular dancing songs over in the dancing category. One of the points I made on this particular slide, and I want to make it clear here, there's a song in here, I have a star next to it, Madonna Vogue.
Yeah.
And it's important when you do pull this list apart and you're looking at things, if there are songs that you may want to ask your brides and grooms, are any of these songs important for a particular reason? Because you don't play a song, you know, like that has special meaning to someone during dinner if they were all going to come up and dance to it or something.
Right.
In this case, Madonna Vogue, the bride actually, it was her sorority song. And I was really trying to figure out, you know, where am I going to play this thing? And it turns out it was her sorority song. So we played it during dancing and they all came up and sang and danced around and, you know, did their Vogue poses and stuff, you know. So it was cool. But it's important to find that out first, because you don't want to, you know, have people jump up during dinner and try to scramble to put on their little thing that they're going to do for dancing.
Right, or think that's their cue to do it, or things like that. Yeah. And it also that also reveals to you like opportunities to create a special moment out of something that is already meaningful to them.
Right, right.
You know?
Yeah, so that's what we do. You know, I always try to break the list apart early. I think it makes it easier. You know, you don't want to be into this playlist and be into dancing and, you know, you're playing, you know, I don't know, some of this stuff, you know, some of the Pitbull or Levels, you know, and all of a sudden you got to figure out how to get into Free by Zach Brown Band.
to fit that in, or you're in your last hour going like, oh man, I forgot, I've got to fit these in somehow, and then you're doing a really weird last hour.
Exactly.
Sadly I've done that.
I think we all have. I think we all have. I think it's important that, if you get people going though, sometimes you can get away with that. I have
Right.
great
Yeah. If you
stories.
have them hooked where they're just like having a good time with you, yeah, you can. But it's like that's not always. Those are exceptional nights. I have a lot of good nights, and then I have some exceptional nights.
Yeah.
But this
I, I,
this this takes the risk out of that, right? This actually makes it more like you're planned ahead, and you've kind of got a more of a game plan of how you're going to do it, make everybody happy, and also maintain some of your flexibility to be able to try to get the biggest reaction out of them. And also, I think that request list is a good guide to kind of give you an idea of like, what is this, especially them, the bride, the groom, and their close friends, like what are they really going to be into, and start exploring in and around there in your selections, because you can only play so many songs during a wedding dance.
yes, I agree. And, a good example, when I got back from Vegas, one of the first couples I met with to do their planning, they specifically brought up, like, one of the first things out of their mouth was, we've been to a couple weddings recently, and we're hearing a lot of like Frank Sinatra and stuff like that, and we don't want. And I thought, oh, good, so
Right.
it really it made me realize that I was on the right track. Anyway.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. And
it definitely reassured me,
just
Yeah,
doing
yeah.
this is providing exceptional value that increases. It makes you more valuable. Not just in terms of, because that makes you different instead of just better.
Hmm.
It's
Yeah,
hard to go ahead.
it was strange. It was literally one of their main concerns when they came in to do their planning was, hey, since we met with you the first time, we've been to a couple weddings, and
Hmm.
that's one of the big downers for us was dinner. It was just so boring, and so I then shared the story of the fact that I had just given that same speech in
Right,
Las
right.
Vegas. So we're on the same page here,
So
They,
not only is are you going to make it great for them, but you've improved the industry, because now there's DJs going like that, like me, that goes, that's brilliant. Now for all the years that I've done different things with dinner music, and I've created different playlists, different genres, but I never thought about it from that point of view. And that opens up a whole nother possibility, and also helps to keep it interesting, which is why going to conferences is like the lifeblood, I think, of any performer, to experience that, because you get recharged with ideas, you get recharged with like why you like doing this in the first place. You get so many benefits about getting around a bunch of other performers in the same business as you, that just can't be replicated online or in a Facebook group. Just physically getting together has to do it.
Yeah, yeah. I love a conference for that. People talk about nuggets and pulling nuggets out of each presentation, and I'm a firm believer that if you listen close enough, you can definitely pull a nugget out of just about any presentation. And I was really pleased with the response I got to my presentation. A lot of questions at the end, a lot of things revolving around, because this was only the first part of the presentation, the dinner playlist stuff, and a lot of the questions revolved around this. And one guy even came up to me and goes, I loved everything else you said. I'm having the hardest time getting away from the Sinatra stuff during dinner. I have a hard time letting go, but I understand what you're saying. And so we talked a little more about it when the presentation was over. But that makes you feel good. That's the
Yeah,
whole
it
reason
does.
that you put a presentation together. You want people to get something out of it, and I was really pleased that people seemed to get something out of it.
Well, absolutely. It was really well presented, and it was a pleasure to be in the audience, and it was a pleasure to do this interview. So I appreciate that you setting aside the time to be able to do this, and I want you to come back on the show, and then we can talk about like your game plan and how you approach the dancing part of the night, which I would like to spend another 20-25 minutes really exploring that with you, because I'm sure that you're going to have a lot of really great ideas and nuggets, as they say, to be able that we all can apply to our shows and the way that we approach to be able to be the best at what we do. Thanks so much for being on the show, Brandon.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
That does it for another week here on Mobile Music Thursday. Be sure to tune in to Lighting Chat on Wednesday nights. John Young talks with a whole variety of people about all the latest and greatest and possibilities in lighting. The whole lighting business has exploded for mobile entertainers in a way that is so much more valuable than saying, yes, I bring disco lights or I don't bring disco lights. I mean, this is something that has like doubled many people's businesses. And so this is a really valuable show that you'll really like. like. Plus, something you can check out at discjockeynews.com is click on the virtual training link. If you like the content you're getting on Disc Jockey News TV, you're going to love what we offer in virtual training. It's a paid training program that you pay for on a monthly subscription, and you get training videos sent to you up to 3 times a week if you choose, all the way down to once a week. It's really pretty incredible, something that can have you always constantly expanding and improving your game. Thanks again for tuning in to Mobile Music Thursday. I'll talk to you next week.